So where am I standing? I'm finding it. So everyone can share the screen. No, yeah, so everyone can hear you even online. Okay. Audible now? Okay. So, afternoon, everyone. I hope I'm audible also online. My name is Nompumelelo Baso-Mdiza. Today, I'll be your chair for the speaker, Nompumelelo Baso-Mdiza. She is a PDP postdoc here at SAIAB under the leadership of Prof. Kotse. Her research interest, they focus on the biological control of aquatic invasive plants and fostering ecosystem resilience to the face of climate change. She also explored trophic resistant to climate change and biological invasive in African freshwater ecosystems. So Nompumelelo, she's very fond of statistics as well. So tomorrow she will be giving a workshop, I think tomorrow and Friday. Yes. She also told me that outside of her research, she is very much fond of recycling and enjoying gardening. So she will be telling us on the experiences that she had when visiting Rwanda. Over to you, Nompumelelo.
Morning. I hope everyone online can hear me. No? They can hear me now? Okay, I'll just assume. Okay. So this talk, I'll just be giving a brief reenactment of what the symposium, like what we learned at the symposium. Obviously, it was 3 days long, but this is an hour, so most of the content will be condensed, but some of the things you'll be familiar with. Some of them were just eye-opening for me, and I thought I should share them with you. So the conference, they called it a symposium, but it felt more like a workshop to me, but you'll see why in just a minute. And it was organized by the Canadian Institute for Advanced Research, CIFAR. They paid for accommodation, for travel, for everything. So it was great in association with Mastercard Foundation. And the people who were running the actual workshop were from Coach Global. So you'll see some, I'll mention some of the names as I go through the slides. Using this. Okay. Sorry, troubleshooting, something happened. See, cool, now working, thank you. So there were about 800 people who applied to go, obviously because it's free and who doesn't want to attend something that is sponsored. 800 applicants, but luckily I was one of the less than 10% was chosen to actually attend the workshop. And there were people from more than 20 countries, and most of them were from sub-Saharan Africa. Most of them were women, of course, because it's a woman leadership workshop. Yeah. And then these were some of the notable people who attended and facilitated the workshop. Firstly, Dr. Jonesy from the Michigan State University. You'll hear some of these people as I go through my talk, and you'll understand why they're important. Dorothy is one of ours from the NRF. I was excited to see someone from the same institution as I. And then we also had Eliana. She is from the Center for International, I'll call it CIFAR Accra. ECRAF, sorry, from Kenya, that long abbreviation there. And then there was Linley. She is an interdisciplinary guru, which we'll get into as well. And then we had the two facilitators. There were more facilitators, but these were the main people running the workshop. Claire, and she's an organic chemist by trade, but she's very good at like training. She ran an amazing workshop in collaboration with Margaret from the United States. So the first thing we did was to give intros of ourselves within 1 minute. So we're sitting, and then each person had to present a slide. This is not the slide I presented, but I'm not going to go through that because Knox has already given quite a great introduction. But we had that exercise, which was people running up to give 1 minute presentations, which was very fun and interesting. And then we got straight into it. And the main crust of the workshop was empowering women as leaders in the research space. And then obviously we want to first describe or define what we mean by leadership and how is it different from management. So leadership is the art of motivating people or a group of people to act towards achieving a common goal. And this could be collaborative, or it could be authoritative. So I'm sure you understand what I mean by that. I'm sure you have some leaders of your own you feel are more authoritative, some are more collaborative. And then there's management. And I feel personally management is usually more authoritative than collaborative, whereas leadership tends to be more collaborative in nature. I hope my voice is not too soft for the people online. And then management is the process of dealing with and controlling things or people. So it's usually more specific to a task compared to leadership, which is usually more broad. And then we went straight into career launch. How do you launch and accelerate your career so that you become that leader that you want to be? This is going to be the skeleton of my talk. Sorry, most of the things that I'm going to be talking about come from slides that were prepared by Claire, which is one of the facilitators of the workshop. And one of the we talk of a cycle of accelerating your career. So you can think of it in terms of 5 cycles. The first one, you want to become a subject matter in your field, as most of you, I think, are in this room, which you've done the first step already. The second part is your aspiration. You want to know what you want to be. So you've done the part, you've got the degree, you've got the postgraduate out of the way. What role are you aspiring to be? What type of leader do you want to be? What are you passionate about? And then when you've identified that, how do you communicate that to people, which is communication there. How do you communicate what your aspirations, what your subject matter is to the masses so that they know that there's someone who is good at this thing that they're looking for. And then also networking, I think it goes hand in hand with communication, because if you can't communicate, then you are not good at networking. So you need to think about who needs to know you and who do you need to know as well in order to succeed, which then leads to the last part of landing your job, landing your grant, or the leadership role of your dreams. So this is the skeleton layout of what I'll be talking about in the presentation. To prepare for a career launch, it's best to collect data. You want to collect data about yourself personally, but you also want to collect data about your field and your surroundings. And if you're a subject expert, so you want to collect data about your field as well, not just about yourself. But personally, what do you want to collect? You need to know your strengths. So within your field, what makes you stand out amongst your peers? You all have degrees, you all have these qualifications, but what makes you stand out? And you need to prepare your documents to reflect those strengths of yours. You also want to sharpen your communications, as I'm trying to do here. So once you've got your story, if you will, right, you need to communicate it effectively, and we'll talk about how to do that. And you also need to build a network so that people know that you do have these skills and they can contact you and you can collaborate. And then once you've collected the data, obviously you want to identify the gaps in which you are falling short. Be it there's a specific skill in your research that you need to learn but haven't yet. Maybe you don't know how to communicate effectively. Maybe there could be a lot of things, but you need to do some data collection, personal data collection to know and identify those gaps for yourself. One thing I think that I took away from when we're discussing this whole thing is that imposter syndrome, which I usually suffer from a lot, is they call it a system-driven thing. So it's not something that is within you. It's not because you don't have the skills and qualifications, but it's just because the system is not inclusive. So you feel that you don't belong sometimes, because that's what I usually feel. And another thing, there was a saying, I think from Lindley, which I also showed her in the previous slide. She said, if you do not get a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. So keep that in mind as we move forward. But first, let's talk about the elevator pitch. How many of you guys in the room are familiar with the concept? Okay, get into it. So the elevator pitch is just a way of introducing yourself in as little time as possible. So imagine a scenario where you are in an elevator, you meet a person that you've been wanting to talk to. How do you engage in that conversation? You know, in the next floor, in the next 2 floors, they'll be leaving. So how do you do it within that 30-second time so that you don't miss the opportunity? You have the person with you now. So the first thing you need to do, obviously, introduce yourself. Who are you? Your name, your affiliations, your position, if that's important. What do you do? Like, what are your expertise, your position, or your passion? And you want to also, why are you, like, talk about the exact reason why you are introducing yourself to the person. Maybe there's a common goal somewhere. Maybe you've seen the person doing something similar to what you want to do. Maybe they're a leader in the sphere that you're trying to get into. And then you bring that in here, but in such a succinctly, like in short amount of time. And then the last step, obviously, how do you communicate further? How do you follow up? So within the 30 seconds to a minute, I think we did 45 minutes in the workshop because, yeah, you do all of this and then hopefully you get to the last part because that's the most important bit. And then the tips for an effective elevator pitch, you want to make eye contact with the person, obviously. And if you feel comfortable, because some of the people don't want handshakes, but if you feel comfortable giving a handshake, make sure it's a firm handshake, not just a hi. And don't speak too fast. I hope I'm not speaking too fast as well. Please do say if I'm going fast or something like that. The people online can see what we see. Sharing one time on, I think. Bali, are you the host? I'm the host. So what do I need to do? Also, see the other multiple presenters. Is it trying to get something else?
Seeing that
There's someone else who's sharing. Okay.
yeah.
So do we end just well?
Sometimes I ramble because I'm doing the words.
18 is.
I want to say so much, but you know that in such a short time that you end up speaking to us.
Is it coming by? Yeah. I'm sorry, we'll figure it out quickly.
No, I'm not doing this. Why not? Because I've done it 300 times and then we
Is it sharing the mix or no?
Yeah.
Not yet.
My brain freezes. No, my computer freezes before my brain does. So just has a long time.
Is it behind? I think it's writing now.
Because during COVID, I did
It's slower that side.
Yeah.
the start. Okay.
But it's fine, it's working. Cool. Sorry about that, everyone. We're back. Where were we? We were at elevator pitch. Yes. So it's your guys' turn. So I want you to turn to your colleague and do a 30-second to 45-minute elevator pitch. You help me with the timing. Just 45 minutes, Nyana max.
Okay, let's start.
Eh? No, sorry, not me now. 45 seconds max. You tell us when we start, eh? The timer.
Okay, I have time.
Okay, so you'll tell us when to go.
Okay, we can start.
You can start with the 30-second elevator pitch. One person has to introduce themselves to the other. I'm not sure for people online. What do you do? Thank you. The elevator is opening now. He has to leave, sorry. Yeah, so that's what it feels like to do an elevator pitch. It's very, very quick. Okay. So did you do all the points that we mentioned? Oh, please go ahead. That's another issue. It's not moving forward. We checked all these things and they were working. And now it's not. Yes. Thank you.
It's not sharing.
Oh no, it's not sharing now. Oh, it's coming, it's coming. It's just slow. It's just slow on the other side. Did you engage and do all of the tricks? Did you make eye contact? Did you give a firm handshake?
Yes.
Were you like audible and not too fast? You didn't go on and on about your field? Hopefully not. Obviously show enthusiasm and common interest if there is. Because sometimes you just introducing yourself for other reasons not related to your field. exchange? Did you exchange? The last part is very important. How are you gonna get hold of the person after? So that is the important part. Get a LinkedIn or get an email or get a business card. Cool. Now that you know how to introduce yourself in a fast manner, you need to know how to communicate even beyond just the elevator pitch. And that's what we're going to discuss going forward. I didn't include the CV stuff here because I feel like we've had the recent workshop already, so I felt that was not needed for here. But we did have the CV talk with it. So I want you to remember that you are your own professional brand. So you are your brand ambassador. Ambassador. So you need to know your strengths. You should be able to sell yourself when needed. You need to become an expert. We've already talked about this and how to like communicate being an expert. And this links to having to establish a reputation so that you build trust with the people you're trying to get into contact with or in collaborations with. And this can be done by showcasing some of your work through articles. I'm going to talk science because that's where I am. So the reputation could come in terms of publications, conference talks, and things of that nature. But essentially, you want to communicate as much as you can about your attributes, and you want to sell yourself. Another thing, you want to challenge yourself and take up leadership positions as they come. So it might seem like something small to maybe head up a committee, but that's strengthening your leadership skills. So don't be shy to take those on, including myself. Because essentially, if you don't avail yourself as the expert in these discussions, someone else who is not an expert is going to take the spotlight, and even we know what happens when that happens. So ideally, we want to have the people who are expert in this discussion sharing their expertise. And then to be an effective oral communicator, there are some elements that you need to engage in. Firstly is projecting your voice. Hopefully I'm projecting enough for people at the back. Am I owning my voice? Because that's what they said when they're talking about this. They were talking about owning your voice and embracing it. You want to use good breathing techniques. Maybe even do the exercises. Sorry, I need some water. Do the breathing exercises before you start your presentation so that it helps you feel calm. Because I know usually when I'm presenting, luckily not today because I feel confident with you guys, but when I'm presenting, I feel out of breath most of the time. So if you do breathing exercises beforehand, then it helps with that as well. But importantly, you want to be prepared. And if you're prepared, you're going to be confident, obviously. Because if you don't feel prepared, then you won't have the confidence for the presentation. So 90%, more than 90% of communication is body language. You want to have an open posture. You don't want to be like hidden from your audience. You want to see everyone in the audience. Is something like that? Oh, this. You want to see everyone in the audience. You want to use gestures. I hope I'm not using too many gestures, but you want to use your hands and your gestures where it's possible. You want to make eye contact with the audience as well. And then that is how I actually managed to win an international conference as a best speaker by engaging in all of these techniques. But one thing I will say about the preparedness specifically, for me personally, there is something called over-preparation. And that is memorizing each and every slide word for word. Because if you do that, then if you forget a thing, one of your train of thoughts, then you lose the whole thing. So be prepared, but not over-prepared. So that's what I will say about that. And to be seen as a leader, you want to also use powerful statements because words are important. As much as language and body is important, words are also very important. So instead of saying, I think, you want to say, I'm confident, like I know this will happen, or I'm confident that this is the way that we should be taking. I hope it sounds a little bit too soft and not, I'm not sure, I don't want to say authoritative, but you get what I mean. So you want to say, I know instead of I hope, because it proves that you are the expert in the field and you know what you are talking about. Unless you're talking about statistics, then you want to. Oh, but essentially you want to use your, you want to read the environment you're in. Some of these things will be applicable. For example, you could say, I'm sorry, I'm late. Instead of saying, sorry, I'm late, you want to say, thank you for your patience. But some of the time, that will not fly with some of your supervisors. So you can't say that to anyone. So you need to be able to read the room and use the necessary, like, the necessary wording accordingly. So now that we've talked about leaders, what do you think makes a good leader? So think about a leader that you admire in your personal or professional career. What do you think makes them a good leader? We can have someone answer that. What makes a good leader? What makes a bad leader?
Top down, something that is someone is a narcissist and just tells you to do things. That's a bad leader to me.
Anyone else? You can choose either to talk about a good leader or a bad leader.
Well, a good leader has good communication skills.
Communication is important.
Empathy.
So those are the qualities of a good leader. Now, when you think about yourself, do you think you have some of these qualities? Like, are you competent? Are you good at goal setting? Are you self-aware? Do you have healthy skepticism until you give people proper chances? Are you self-aware of your strengths and your weaknesses? And do you have trust? And that those are what will make you a good leader, including being decisive. We need to include that. Being a leader obviously comes with challenges. You may face challenges that are external to you or challenges that are internal. Some of the external challenges that came up a lot was related to gender and age. So people might look down at you especially if you're managing people who are older than you because you are younger, because you're a female, and all of that. But then it goes down to being a good leader. As a good leader, you should be able to overcome those challenges by building trust with the people, showing your competency that you can actually do the job, even if you are female and you are young. You need to be assertive to some extent, especially as females. We need to be assertive in some instances. I'm not going to go through all of these, but this is one of the exercises we did, and we came up with different challenges and how you'd overcome those challenges. And then there was also 2 panel discussions. One was on interdisciplinary research and the other one was on networking. For interdisciplinary research, what I took away from that is that in order to actually solve these complex problems, we do need interdisciplinary research. So it's very important to engage in it, but it's also, we need to be aware of the trade-offs of it, because when you're doing interdisciplinary research, you kind of take away from specialization in a way, because specialization you need a specific skill that which you develop over time. But if you are a jack of all trades, what's the saying? The master of none. Yeah. So sometimes if you focus too much on there, then so you need a healthy balance between the two. Some specialization which can anchor you, and I think they used they said don't lose the forest for the tree. So the tree would be your specialization, and then the interdisciplinary research would be the forest. I loved how they explained that. So essentially the specialization would anchor yourself in a specific field, and then the collaborations will give you access to other disciplines and other ideas which you might not have come up with yourself. And I think I've loved when we had the symposium here at SAIAB, there was so many of those computer science collaborations, which I love. So we're doing our part when it comes to that, but we need to do more, obviously. And then we talk about networking and mentoring for career success. And this one was ran by Margaret. So most of the things that I'll be talking about will be coming from will be her ideas. So as people, we are social beings. We need to feel connected to a cause or to a group of people. And so we need to build relationships essentially. And this is important in all life stages and in all career stages. You're never done with creating a network. You're never done needing a network of people. So that is important, and it's developed over time. So you might meet someone today and you might not know the types of collaborations that will come up in the future. So yes, it's important to have those common goals and shared expertise, but also be open to things outside of that, because I think collaborations and interdisciplinary research comes from those unexpected encounters as well. And as we all know, research is a social and a team effort. You have your supervisor, sometimes you have a team of collaborators. So that in itself is a social activity. And then there's two kinds of networks that you want to build. You want to build a social network, not Facebook and Instagram, but okay, let me call them societal networks. These are faith-based sometimes. So you might go to church and you have those connections with your fellow churchgoers. You might have extended family members, which also form part of your network. Community-based could be schools and stuff like that. And then hobbies, people at the gym, could be some of your buddies as well. And then we have career building networks, this is the part we're going to focus on for this presentation. And these are divided into supportive networks, professional networks, as well as aspirational networks. So the supportive networks are usually less formal than the other two, and the professional networks are usually more formal and goal-oriented. This could be so for a support network, this could be your supervisor, your colleagues. So yes, it's formal, but still less formal than the professional networks, which can be it's a book club or a committee that you sit on. So these are the professional networks. And then aspirational networks is the networks that you want to get into. Maybe your supervisor is part of a committee board and you want to be in part of that board. So that is where your network how you want to grow your network essentially. So how do you begin to network? Are we still good on time? How much? Are we done? Are we supposed to be done?
3:37.
Okay, I'm still good. I'm still good. I'm almost. And then how do you begin to build these networks? You must identify key individuals that you want to connect with, especially when you're going to somewhere like a conference. Before you go, maybe read the abstracts, or if you have information about the people who are going, check who are the people you want to connect with beforehand. And make interests and competences as clear as possible. So when you are introducing yourself to the person, remember the elevator pitch. What are you interested in? What are your competences? So you want to make that stand out in those conversations. You want to advocate for yourself. because you are your own brand ambassador, as we've said. So it's important to actually believe in yourself before you actually get into these spaces. Another important thing about networks, you can tap into them when you need grants, what do you call them? References for grants and awards. And you can also do the same for others as well. Another takeaway when we discussed this was the 3 V's. So you want to be visible, you want to be viable, and you want to be valuable. I think my network is unstable. It says, I hope people in the audience, in the online space can hear me. But essentially, don't assume that you are too junior or that people are too busy to listen to what you have to say. Advocate for yourself. And then we had semi-structured or brainstorming sessions as well. So we talked about very many things, but I've just selected a few from that. We talked about effective funding, crafting an effective funding proposal, which Nompumelelo will. We can have a chat about that one. Managing difficult conversations, maybe something with your supervisor or your student. We talked about that as well. We talked about questions, a question that intrigues me outside of my own research. And for me, I think I said the relevance of AI in research and in humanity as in general. So we discussed a whole lot of things. And lastly, obviously, being female, we discussed work-life balance. And me being a wife, a mother, business owner, and a researcher, that was very helpful for me as well. Unfortunately, I can't share all of the things I learned because of time limitations, but I have some resources. If you guys are keen to, we can chat about that later. Okay, and then we had some fun as well. It wasn't all like serious discussions. So we took a tour to the Nompumelelo Women's Center, and this is a center that employs about 50 women to do house decor and clothing and bags. I have my own bag there. It was very nice to see, and it was very inspirational as well, because according to the country, the history of the country, the women were not allowed to go to school, so they couldn't find opportunities as easily as their male counterparts. So this founder of this was unemployed at the time when they started this this center. And we also took a walk around the neighborhood. They said it's the oldest neighborhood in Kigali. So it was nice to see and interact with the locals as well. The last bit we talked about was mentorship. And it can take one of 4 spheres. You can be a mentor or receive mentorship, a coach, you have a sponsor, and you have a champion. And I loved how they distinguish between the 4. So they said a coach talks to you. So this is usually someone who is teaching you a specific thing. Maybe it could be a writing coach, and it's task oriented and short term. So you're trying to do a specific thing. You can have a mentor as well, who talks to you or talks with you, sorry. So this is development driven and it's long term. So they're trying to guide you in a broader spectrum of things compared to the coach. And then we also have a sponsor who talks about you. So it's that someone who talks about you in rooms where you don't have access to, someone who recommends you for positions and all of that. And then you have a champion. This person bets on you, and your success is important for their success. And this could be your supervisor maybe, because if you do well and you complete your degree, you publish papers, that also feeds into their own success. So have you guys had a coach? Have you had a coach? Hands up if you ever had a coach. Had a coach. Yay. Have you had a sponsor? You might not even know that you have a sponsor because it's someone who talks about you when you're not there, who talks good things about you. And then have you had a mentor? Had a mentor. Never, I don't think I've had a mentor. I've had a sponsor. not a mentor, I've had a champion. A champion, obviously, most of us would have had supervisors. I'm not gonna make you do the exercise because we had to write down each of these people and what we got from those engagements, but because of time, we're gonna skip that. And we're nearing the end of our talk. So now that you know what you like, the type of leader you want to be, what is your plan on how to get there? What is your plan within the next year? What is your plan within the next 5 years? And what is your plan within the next 10 years? And when you think about all of these, I want you to be bold in your dreams. We call it the blue sky dream, where you dream like the perfect scenario. Even for me, I think I find it challenging to dream, and this activity was useful for me because it forced me to actually sit down and think about the 5 years, think about the 10 years, even if it was scary for me, because I'm not used to doing that. Something that can help you in your thinking about your aspirations and your dream is the concept of ikigai. And this is a Japanese concept, and it means a reason for being. I'm sure some people will have different explanations of it, but essentially what it means, it's something that you are good at, something that you love to do as well, and that the world needs, and you can be paid for it. So if you can identify that thing, it doesn't have to be one thing, it can be multiple things. What thing ticks all of these boxes? What is your passion? Something you're good at and you actually love doing, not just love doing, but you're bad at it. But and then what is your mission? The world needs, and you can get money for it. And the profession, something you're good at, and you can be paid for it. For me, my ikigai is stats, for people who know me. And then this is your homework. If you can take a screenshot of this or a picture, I want you to do in a single page, map out your 5-year plan. I want you to do a plan for your career, a plan for your personal goals, and a plan for your family goals. So we're not gonna do that 1 and 10 years, just the midpoint. And you can choose to share this with your friends or keep it personal. We were asked to share. I thought I wasn't gonna share mine at the time, but I think the picture that you saw circulating when I was advertising, that was me sharing my goals, and it was very scary because then it brought it some kind of reality and accountability to it. So if you tell someone your goals, then you become more accountable. So it's up to you if you want to share or not, but that's your homework. And lastly, we ended off with a bang. We got to experience Ingomanyashe, which is a group of girl drummers. And then they call themselves Gira Ingoma, which means 1 drum per child, per girl child. And the reason why this was so significant is because people in most part of that region, including Rwanda and Kigali, the girls were not allowed to drum, as they were not allowed to go to school, they were not allowed to do many other things. So the founder actually chose to create a group of girls who can be drummers. So in closing, they said, you have to beat your own drum. So remember to beat your own drum, and I'll leave it at that. Ooh.
Thank you, Nompumelelo, for taking us through 1 hour workshop, communication workshop and empowerment. I'm not sure if there's anyone in the room who's got questions. We want questions. Yes, questions.
Firstly, Dr. Nompumelelo, thank you very much for the talk. It was very interesting. I was very intrigued by the leadership part, which brings me to my question. Do you personally believe that anyone can become a leader? If so, why? If not, why?
I love that question. It speaks to me directly because one of the things, when I went to this workshop, one of the things, I didn't see myself as a leader. and I couldn't identify what aspects of my personality could make me a leader. And luckily for me, it was the group who identified me and my the trait that they said make me a leader, and I agreed with them when they told me this, is that I can advocate for the little guys. So the person who is quiet in the group, I give them space to talk. So that is one quality that makes me a leader. And also in your personal space, you don't need to be a leader in every aspect of your life. You can be a leader in your family, as I am. So it was easy for me to accept that I am a leader in the social aspect of things. But when it comes to professional life, I couldn't really see where the leadership would be. So in your question, yes, I feel like everyone can be a leader, but it depends where your leadership, where do you want to be a leader? Are you a leader in church? Are you a leader in your career? Are you a leader, like you can be a leader in any aspect of your life?
Thank you for that. Online, I'm not sure if there's anyone who wants to take a question. You can just go ahead and ask the question. Also in the room, is still anyone? No question? Nothing then, but Ms. Francesca.
Yes.
Thanks so much, really great talk, inspiring talk. What if you feel confident enough to be a leader, but somehow the system is not ready for you?
Last night, you bring your own folding chair. So this thing of bringing a folding chair came. So it was Lily who said it, one of the people that was on the slide, and that was a saying that was coming from a Black female, the first Black female to run for president in the United States. So you bring your own chair, you folding chair. If the table is already taken, all the seats are taken, bring a folding chair. Find a way, push through. Because we need the first person to do it in order for others to follow.
Still no questions, Barry. Oh, Yoza.
Thanks, women, for your talk. I think mine is also following up on Francesca's question. So you mentioned that with imposter syndrome, it's not just something within you, but there are some factors that we go into. So how do you navigate within those factors? And my second question is on the symposium. Is it a yearly thing or part of one?
Okay, your first question on the syndrome, what syndrome? My brain just shut down after I finished I think the best way is to keep going back to that network of support that you have, because people are telling you that you are good at this thing, but you just have to hear it and internalize it. Because I've had, I also suffer from the same, because I'll feel like an imposter sometimes, but then I'll look back and maybe if you have something to read, maybe an email or whatever, just see people were praising you on what wonderful things you were just doing recently, and then now you feel you don't deserve, or you are not in the right space. So it's all about tapping into that network of yours when you yourself don't have the power to push through. And then the second part, I'm not really sure if it's a yearly thing. I think this was their first installation. So if they do, because we do have a network of communication, so if they do come up, I will share it with the group as well.
No, there's no other questions. Thank you so much.
This one, yeah. Yes, we had 5 men there. There were 5 men, so at least 10% of the population was male.
Good night.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
No questions. Oh, there's 2 questions. Oh, no questions. Yeah. Thank you, Doctor, for your insightful and inspiring talk. I have 2 questions. What do you recommend for women in society who completed their education but just ended up, I think, being housewives due to several reasons? What do you think the symposium will have an impact on women professionals?
Okay, so the first one about the housewife, was it a personal decision to be a housewife, or was there other factors that made you, because that also, I see that as leadership in itself. Being a housewife is a lot of work, especially if you have children. But it all depends on the circumstances that led you to that position. Were you like unable to find employment? If not, then you need to maybe upskill a little bit more, because I know in sciences, a degree usually doesn't cut it. Maybe you need postgraduate qualifications in order to break whatever is blocking you. And then what is the second part? What impact? For me personally, doing this was the impact. I would have volunteered myself to just give a presentation, but here I am giving a presentation. So that's one of the impacts. And the second impact was me identifying myself as a leader and accepting that I could be a leader. So that was the impact for me. And I guess in the broader context, without personalizing it, when we give a voice and a space for women to actually identify these things for themselves, they can go out there and claim those opportunities. Because I'm sure there are leadership positions that you guys have been looking at and you're just feeling like, no, maybe I'm underqualified, or I'm too young, or it's not the right fit. But once you've been exposed to those kinds of symposiums, then you are able to break out of your own mental cages and be able to chase those dreams. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think if there's another question, you do have an email.
Yes, yes.
Someone can send an email. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
Thank you. No other questions. Okay. Good.
I'm sure the recording break when we said that. It was still going.